what we want to try to understand through looking at these texts as a springboard for conversation, we want to try to understand really what is the dynamic, or what are the dynamics between a majority culture, that is to say, the culture that rules, that has a story about what it is, and a minority culture, which is to say, a culture that is not the ruling class, doesn't mean they're completely disempowered, but may have and likely does have a different story than the grand narrative of the majority. Now, it's important to recognize, as you saw in all of these texts, that what we're talking about here is dynamics. It's a dynamic. What is the dynamic between those two parties? Not only what is the dynamic and how does the seesaw move up and down, depending on what each side does, because you can see the way certain conversations start, you know the way they're going to end, and other conversations may, just from the start, because they're framed differently, or the tone is different, the whole conversation may end completely differently. But moreover, what we saw in the first two sources that we learned was that it's not just about, frequently, it's not just about the dynamics between the majority culture and its minorities. Oftentimes, there are dynamics that are playing out within majority cultures amongst themselves and within minority cultures amongst themselves. And I want to take a minute to note some of those in terms of what we learned. Now, you saw Julian's letter about essentially Christianity, but the piece of the letter that I gave you, where he's trying to instantiate or reinstitute Roman values and trying to put down Christian monotheism, really what he does is he takes his aim at the Jews. Now, I need you to know that the Jews for Julian are not actually important, except insofar as they are a wedge for him. It's the same Julian who actually tried to build a third temple for the Jews because he wanted to spit in the eyes of the Christians. So what he says about the Jews, or what he does to the Jews, it's a byproduct of a larger conversation. And you may have noticed as you're reading, there's some things that are a little bit offensive, and there are other things that are really offensive. So like when he says, Jews are not in power and have been slaves throughout history, I'm actually not so bothered by that. To be honest, when you learn the Talmud Bavli, when you learn the story of Rabbi Akiva's death, what Rabbi Akiva does in his death at the hands of the Romans is he basically says, power be damned. I've got ideology. I've got some big ideas, the right ideas. I've got a relationship with God. I'm going to outlast you, even if I don't outlast you right now. So I actually don't mind when Julian says, hey, Christians, why do you want to be like the Jews? They're not powerful. But no, he's saying to be Roman is to be a brute force, to be powerful. And the Jews are not that. And I need to define them as not that. But it gets really offensive when he says that Jews aren't lawyers or doctors. Because that's just not true. And that never was true. So he asks, well, we have great laws. Do they? We have great healers. Do they? Oh yes, Solomon was a great healer. Well, actually, he served many gods because his wives pushed him in that direction. So maybe everybody should be a little more like Solomon, he suggests. But look at what's happening there. It's actually not just a story of saying, we have something that they don't. It's also ignoring the possibility that they actually have something. Because likely there is something there in terms of healing and laws. The whole rabbinic enterprise is about laws and lawmaking and government. So it's not just asserting something that may be true and asserting something that's definitive, but it's even ignoring what may already be there. And the third thing that he does is he says, and if your culture is so great, how come you want to learn our culture? Well, can anybody think of reasons why Jews might have wanted to learn Roman culture? A, to survive, to be able to be part of society. B, it's not as though one culture has the monopoly on every big idea. But that is the way that Julian is trying to set things up. And so we see strategies of the majority here that are actually not so foreign. A strategy of suggesting they're not us. What they have doesn't measure up to what we have. Or maybe they appreciate culture as opposed to being, parasites in our culture. And then the fourth, what he doesn't say is there something to learn from it? There's something you need to know. Which is there's another letter in which Julian writes to a Roman priest. He says, can we be more like the Jews? They're willing to die for their beliefs. But us, we don't even know what our beliefs are. Same guy, different audience. The second Jewish piece that you saw is the conversation between Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Yossi, and conveniently a man who was named Rabbi Yehuda, son of converts. This is actually a measure of internal minority dynamics. Is it possible that the guy who is known as Yehuda, son of converts, might be a caricature in the sense that this liminal personality who comes from them, all in quotes, who comes from them and becomes one of us, shows his true colors that he's really one of them? Because he says, I love what they do. It's beautiful. And Rabbi Yossi doesn't know what to do because he doesn't want to say, I think what they do is terrible, but he doesn't want to say, I think that they do. So he's quiet. The ambivalence of a minority living in a place where they get good things, where life is not so terrible. It's not roses every day. But how much do you want to, as an insider in your minority group, admit what it is that you're getting from the majority? And how much do you want to suggest, as Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai does, that no, the majority, they're only doing it for themselves, they're not thinking of us, they don't care about us at all, which may be true, or may not be true. And that story actually ends. Remember when Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai burdens somebody up with his eyes, exactly what it is, he's going to go to a cave. You know who burns up? Yehuda ben Girim. This is an internal dynamic of, if you want to prove, right, this is an MLK Louis Farrakhan moment, right? If you want to prove who you are, you're going to, now, obviously not linear, obviously. I'm just trying to help us see. So, before we even get to interactions between the people that are imagined in the rabbinic works, I want to think about the interactions within each of these groups and what it means to show your loyalty or what it means to define who you are. Because Julian's working very hard at it, and so are the rabbis in that Gemara and Shabbat that I gave. They're working very hard at it, and it's not uncontested. Usually, the harder you work, the more contested it is. Like I always say, if Jewish identity felt natural and organic, we wouldn't have to talk about it so much, right? The more contested it is, the more you have to talk about it and try to work it out. And so with that as our introduction, let's look at 3 stories in the Gemara, and we're going to learn them together. And actually, I'm going to invite you to a degree. If there's something that you want to add, to a degree, because there are a lot of you and only one of me. But if there's something that really has to come out, just shout it out. Okay? I know. But be careful, because everyone's going to give you a dirty look if they didn't think it was important. Or concise enough, as someone just wisely said. We have 3 stories. Our first story is between Antoninus and Rabbi Judah the Prince. Antoninus and Rabbi Judah the Prince appear to be friends or colleagues in some way. The second story is King Shapur, the Sasanian king, the Zoroastrian king, the Persian king, the Babylonian king, and Chama. We don't think there's any relation between him and Chanin Bar Chama, by the way, in the first story. But beyond that, they don't seem to be friends, right? Our last story is between the daughter of Caesar and Rabbi Yoshua ben Hananiah. We do not know who this is, the daughter of Caesar, but we do know that she comes in kind of hot, right? She does not come in as a friend, but she does come in with some sense of, I know that I want to say something to this guy that's going to push his buttons. So maybe there's a history there, and indeed there is.
Well, the Caesar would have been hatred.
Well, let's not get too close to who the Caesar's going to be. Let's assume it's hatred, but it doesn't matter. Our first example is a lengthy example. I still want to go through it because I think it has many strategies of both the minority and the majority. Let's start in number 4. The Gemara in Avodah Zarah 10a to 11. I'm going to read in Aramaic, if that's okay. Amarle Antoninus the Rebbe. Antoninus says to Rebbe, Va'inati loch Esperis b'ri tchoti. I want my son Severus to rule after me. V'tid avid Tiberia Kalania. And I want to make Tiberius, into a Roman colony. V'i emo chada, and if I tell my Senate that I want one thing, avde, they'll do it. But Trey lo avde. But if I tell them 2 things, they won't do it. I have many questions about this movement. Why is Antoninus asking Rebbe for advice about who should succeed him in his dynasty? Is this a case of friendship? And I can't go to anyone within my circle, so I'm going to ask someone outside. Or is this a trap? Because you see, what he says to Rebbe is, I want to do 2 things. I want to secure my dynasty and my legacy, and I also want to make the Jewish city of Tiberias, which, by the way, was one of the only Jewish cities that did not participate in the Bar Kokhba revolt against Rome. They've been good Jews, a good minority. I want to make them a Roman colony so that they'll be tax-free, and they won't ever be slaves. So, which one should I do? Jewish patriarch? I don't think this is so innocent. Moreover, let's look at the way Rebbe answers. Aiti Gavra, so he brought a man, Arkive Achavre, put him on top of another man, it's a little big that, V'yahivle Yona Li'ilai B'yadeh, and he gave a dove to the one sitting on top. But Amar Le'Tata, and he said to the guy on the bottom, Imar Le'ema, go tell the guy up top to let go of the bird. Oh, I get what you're saying, says Antoninus. Amar, he said, Shmamina Hachika Amarli. This is what he must be saying. At Boiminayim to Asferus Berim Lochtoti. I should ask for Severus to be my successor. The Amalil Asferus, and I should tell Severus to Tavid Tiberia Kalana, that he should make Tiberius into a colony. I have more questions. Why the charades? Why can't Rebbe just say what he thinks should be done? Is it that they have a secret language, they're so connected to each other? Or is it that Rebbe probably shouldn't be seen giving political counsel to the king that helps the Jews? I have a second question, which is, was this such a hard question? Is Rebbe so brilliant? Are you telling me that Antoninus couldn't have figured out on his own, I should probably just ask my kid Severus to make them a colony because they've been so good to us? So this makes me wonder, in general, what does it mean when the emperor, who is wealthy, who is powerful, who has plenty of counselors to help him, has to Rabbi Judah the Prince, who is wealthy because he's the Jewish patriarch, who is powerful because he's the liaison to Rome, who has plenty of counselors of his own, his class. What does it mean when the rep of the majority reaches out to the rep who is a very powerful member of the minority? Is it a trick? Is it a trap? Is it a test? Or is it real? Is it real? I need you. I actually need someone who's outside of my master's story. Because otherwise anything I say to anyone is inappropriate. The conversation goes on, and it does start to reveal as the scene continues to unfold that perhaps this is more of a trap than we realize. Amarle, he says in the next paragraph, Mitzarmin li chashuvei romai. You know, I have a problem. Now, some of the significant people in Rome, they are giving me trouble. Why is he asking Rebbe here? Maybe it actually is useful to have someone who's outside of his cabin. Maybe that is a good thing. But look at what Rebbe does. Ma'ayel Eladina, he took him to the garden. Kol Yoma Aperle Pugla Mineshra, Kame, every day, uprooted a radish. And then he says, I understand. Amar Shmamina, Hachika Amarli, you must be telling me the following. Atkitol Chad Chad Minayu, kill them one at a time. And don't try to kill them all at once. Rebbe just turns from the guy who has access to Antoninus, from the guy who's able to get his Jewish city of Tiberias to be tax-free, into the guy who's now murdering Roman officials. How does that slippage happen? That the representative of the minority culture, who is strong, who has access, ultimately becomes someone who has to become implicated in violence. But it's more than that. The Gemara recognizes something. You know, in the footnote, you have this little footnote that doesn't seem to matter, but it matters a lot. The footnote is that Tacitus, in his histories, in his Roman version of history, where he's telling a story about two tyrants. The tyrant known as Periander, tyrant of Corinth, and the tyrant known as Thrasybulus, thank you, a tyrant of Miletus, from many, many centuries before. These two tyrants also used radishes to give each other messages. There is an implicit judgment here of Rabbi Judah the Prince. He is becoming Greek. He is becoming Roman. He is getting involved in being in tyranny. That's what's happening to him. But even as he gets involved in tyranny, he himself is stuck between Scylla and Charybdis. But why can't he just say explicitly, kill one at a time? What we call the tall poppy syndrome, right? Knock out all the tall poppies. That's political science. But had to just tell him. Amar, he said, Shami chashuvi romi umitzaru. This is not a good idea, because the important people of Rome are going to hear this, and literally it means they're going to bother him. Is it that they're going to bother him, or they're going to bother Rabbi Judah the Prince? Be careful what kind of advice they hear you giving. So whisper it to him. No. Mishum tichtiv, because as it is written, ki ofa shamayim yolif etako. A little birdie will bring, and I have to say that someone in my life who thinks about birds a lot, perhaps Yonah a lot, mentioned to me, look at the parallel between the beginning where he sends off the bird, and here where the bird becomes not a symbol of liberty for Tiberius, not a symbol of, oh, fly away, you're free as a bird, but a symbol of just how imprisoned Rebbe is. He can't even give his confidant real advice out. The scene is going to end in a moment. moment with two other pieces that continue to help us understand, essentially, you might call it a process of access to guilt, access turning into being implicated. On page 6, one more legacy piece that Antoninus wants to know. You notice that so far, there's been a lot of legacy discussed here. Little more legacy. Havale Hahu Brata, he had a daughter, Ishma Gira, whose name was Gira. Ha'avta Isura, she did something off limits, probably sexual. Shadale Gar Gira, so he sent, Antoninus sent to Rebbe a rocket planes. I guess maybe there's sexual imagery here, I'm not sure. Shadale Kusbarta, so for Rebbe, it's very simple. She did something sexually licentious, just get rid of her. Kusbarta was Kus or Kos, kill. Brata, your daughter. Here they are with their little charades again. Shadale Karti. But then Antoninus sends him a leak saying, no, I don't want to be karet, I don't mean krat, this is my legacy, I don't want to be cut off, I want my daughter to live. Shalach lechas, so he sends him some letters saying, bichas. Now, first of all, this is continuing the idea of this Periander and Thrasybulus, these two tyrants who talk to each other through charades. But here, notice what happens. Antoninus says, I'm not actually asking you. I'm going to tell you what you're supposed to say. You think I'm asking you? I'm testing you. I'm not asking you. And it ends in the first, this question of, is this opportunity that Rebbe is trying to help his people? Is this murder that Rebbe becomes a murderer in trying to succeed as the minority? Is this tell me what I want to hear, or is this sign language between two close friends? It ends with the following on the top of page 7. And this cements exactly what's going on. Kol Yoma, every day, have a shadrle dahava fecha. Every day, Antoninus would send Rebbe some gold. Bimatrata, in sacks, v'chite apumayhu, with wheat on top. Do we have any story that we know of someone sent Joseph? When Joseph wants to frame Benjamin, he sends him home with his gavia, with his silver, not gold, but silver cup buried under wheat in his packet. So this is actually not a bad setup, because what it's telling us is Rebbe's not a tyrant. He's doing this for good reasons. Maybe Antoninus is a tyrant. Antoninus is dangerous. And don't accept a Trojan horse, because we know what happened. You're really like Joseph's brothers, Rebbe. You're getting duped. Until Rebbe, so they tell him, he tells his people, bring these chitim, bring this wheat to Rebbe. Rebbe says, I don't need it. Eat li tuva. I'm going to say the Hebrew, yesh li rav. Does it sound familiar anywhere from Genesis? Where somebody offers something, and the person answers, yesh li rav. I don't need it. Yaakov offers to Esav, and Esav says, I've got it. So what just happened in the rabbinic editing process is Rebbe went from the innocent Benjamin, who's about to be framed, to Esav. This is not a happy story about Rabbi Judah the Prince. And then he continues to explain what this is all about. The whole point of this is that I want to give you gold so that your children can give my children gold in taxes. If you thought that this relationship was about breaking the binary between our two groups, you are sorely mistaken. It was about reifying the binary. It was about maintaining the binary. We are brothers like Yaakov and Esav are brothers. I'm paying you off, Rebbe, to keep the status quo. All this talk about my future heirs actually just amounts to your future heirs being in the exact same position that you're in right now, being stuck. That's the end of scene one. If you ended it with scene one, let me ask you a question. Who here has sympathy for Rebbe? Raise them high, don't be shy. Somebody who has sympathy for Rebbe, the reason you have sympathy for Rebbe is, in a sentence, he's stuck. What's he supposed to do? He's trying to help his people. Does it bother you that at a certain point he gives murderous advice? Yes, but that's politics. We're stuck. Can I ask you a question? Do you think Rebbe likes being on top? Do you think there's any possibility that Rebbe retains this kind of access, not only to help his people, but because it feels real good? That's where the Gemara is going. The bottom of page 7. Of course, the rabbis imagine that there's actually a tunnel, right? A kotel tunnel. A tunnel going from the palace to Rebbe's house. Kol yom ha'amayiti trei avdei, every day. Antoninus brings 2 of his servants, chad kat le'avav b'beit Rebbe, chad kat le'avav b'beit, and he kills both of them so that no one will know that they met. Right? Keep it secret. Keep the status quo. If we're actually going to be breaking some sort of code between our groups, let's not let anybody know about it. Even if it's constant. Even if it impacts the way that I rule. Even if it impacts the way that I think. Amar le, and he says to Rebbe, I don't want anybody else to be here. Not just secret, but even if you try to expand the circle, you're not going to be able to expand the circle. Nonetheless, here's a moment where Rebbe tries. Rebbe tries to expand the circle. He brings his student, Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama. You want to talk about legacy? This is his heir apparent. He brings his heir apparent to get the conversation going on the bottom of 7. Yom Achad, Ashkechei Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama, the Havayot, one day, Antonina sees Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama sitting there. Amar, he said, Lo Amina Lecha, Be'idna Da'atina Lo Nishtach Gever Kamach, didn't I tell you the rules? There are rules here, right? Is Rebbe about to lose his access? It's possible that he's about to lose his access, and maybe he did something very brave here by trying to have Chanina Bar Chama in here. Amar le'ema le'lahu avda de'gani abava de'kan belete. He's testing now, just as he tested Rebbe. He's testing Chanina Bar Chama to find out if Chanina Bar Chama, who he is and what he is, and what he's going to do when somebody is really actually dead. Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama goes and he finds the guy dead, and this is where we all hold our breath and wonder, what is he going to do? And he says to himself, he's very smart, he says to himself, what am I going to do? I can't go correct the king, and that's not going to go well. And I can't go and tell the king, that he wasn't there, because that's not going to go well. So he prays and he raises this person from the dead. And then Rebbe says, Antonina says, oh, I know you guys are better than us. Look at what the smallest among you can do. This is a new strategy. This is not a strategy when the minority talks to the majority and plays ball. This is a strategy when the minority talks to themselves and says, oh, you know what? Antoninus is really afraid for Chanina Bar Chama to come, because he realizes even the smallest among us is greater than the greatest among them. Right? There's a double vision. Right? The way they look at us is not the way we look at us. We're actually superior. They may see us as inferior, but really deep down they know. They know who we really are. And then he ends by saying, Rebbe, I told you, don't bring anybody in.
Isn't Antonino's though saying, I know that, like, you got this talent, the way I look at it, like, Jews are, you're very good, but dismissing them by saying this doesn't impress me, and really don't bring them over.
So here's the question. When somebody recognizes talent in someone else, are they dismissing the talent by saying don't bring them in? Or are they trying to quell threats and pull up branches? Right? What kills me about this piece is that what you see here is that only the guy who's willing to kill people, Rebbe, is allowed to stay. But the guy who brings life has to leave. I mean, just think about that for a minute. Only the guy who's willing to participate in the violence of the majority is allowed to stay. And the other guy has to leave. This superiority complex continues, but it just starts to seem more and more like Rebbe just likes the position that he's in. In the next paragraph, every day, Antoninus would come and really serve Rebbe, maybe learn from him, right? Mashkile, he would feed and he would give him to drink. And when Rebbe wanted to lie down, why would Rebbe ever go lie down in front? There's a comfort level. Why would Rebbe ever go lie down? You want to read it a little differently? Maybe someone's saying, is there something sexual here? I don't know. But what I do know is that it's very strange. You have to have a certain comfort level to say to the king, I'm going to lie down. And you wonder if Rebbe's getting a little too comfortable in his access. Not because he's transgressing Antoninus' boundaries, but because he's transgressing his own. And look at what Antoninus says. Antoninus says, tries to lie down in front of him, and he says, no, that's inappropriate. And he says, oh, would that I, would that I were your mattress in the world to come. There is a lot going on here. There's a lot going on here. We started this story seeing Rebbe as trapped and feeling bad for him, even though all along the way, the rabbinic editors are hinting that they think he's a tyrant, Rebbe, and they think he's Asaph, Rebbe. They're not trying to get us to look at this simply. And now what's about to happen is the superiority that we're going to tell about Rebbe and his people is going to serve many, many functions. Number one, there's a polemical function here. This isn't just a story about Rome and Jews. The same way Julian used somebody else to talk about Christianity, the Jews use somebody else to talk about Christianity, and it's called Rome. If you notice in the footnote that I gave you, you find in Acts a quote of Jesus saying the night before his crucifixion, I am going to be a bed for you. Look at what happens here. What they're saying is not only are we better than Rome, but we're better than Christianity, because actually, what does it mean to be a bed? They're going to be a bed for our Rebbe, right? For our Rebbe. There's an internal polemic going on here. There's a fantasy going on here. But there's something else that's much simpler, which is, let's say you are the liaison of the Jewish community. I don't care if you're on the right or you're on the left. And you say, I gotta be there because we need a seat at that table. And as you sit at that table and hear more and more disturbing things, you stick around, not just because you want Tiberius to get his taxes off, but because you really like it that the people in charge want you around and give you cover. Is it possible that sometimes we stay at the table not only because we're trying to have a seat at the table for the Jewish people, but that we stay at the table because we like the way that it positions us? Is that something we need to think about and consider on the right and on the left? Do we stay at the table because we don't want to think that we're actually there to be bringing a seat at the table for Jews, but we just want to think that we're valued on our own for who we are. I mean, we're not so different. Me and Antoninus, we're both wealthy, we're both leaders, we're both wise, we're not so different. Yes, you are. He keeps telling me, yes, you are. And he keeps refusing to see it. He keeps refusing to see it. And the last scene is the saddest scene of all. Because in the last scene, Antoninus says to him, will I get into the world to come? If you were ready, what would you say? Yes. Is there anything else you might be able to say? If you really have access, if you really have that relationship with Antoninus, you might say to him, you'll get Olam Haba if you stop killing 2 guards every day when you come to my house.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do that. Maybe he doesn't do that because he learned from the Chanina Bar Chama situation that he shouldn't test the waters. Maybe he doesn't do that because he's actually bought in to what's going on. And he says, you'll go to Olam Haba, and it's Antoninus who has to say, but wait, I don't think I'm supposed to. And you know what Rebbe says to him? Just like you said, I'm an exception, I'm going to say you're an exception. The power has completely reversed here. I'm letting you in. I'm giving you access. Right? It flips. Access that you can't get without me. So 2 people asked me a great question, which is, what does it mean that we look at all of these different Romans, or look at Romans as knowing Torah? Well, why are they using that idiom? And I want to suggest 3 things, because that's what happens here. One is, we all speak in our own idiom. Have you ever told a story of somebody telling you something is okay, and what you said is they said it was kosher? They didn't say it was kosher. That's just the way we talk. That's a slang. That's what we do. But there are 2 more that I think are really at play, much more here. The second is the idea that even the Roman Emperor wants to learn Torah. Torah is that important. They say that but even the Roman Emperor in secret learns Torah every day. And third, the Roman Emperor can't understand the Torah without us. We need to create an access point. The same way they have access to power, we have access to something else, and they can't get it without us. And they need us. It's a power play. There's a power play going on here. And the most devastating of all, which is exactly what I think the Gemara is going for throughout, is to suggest that actually, when Rebecca finds out, you have 2 children in your womb, presumably implying that they're going to fight with each other and they're not going to get along. Not presumably, the next sentence says it, that actually the rabbis reread it, Shnei Deim B'Vnech. You have 2 prideful people. Rebbe and Antoninus, there's no difference between them anymore. There's no difference between them anymore. Rebbe has completely morphed, and then it tells us a nice story about how many vegetables they had at their table. The vegetables they have at their table is not just about their wealth, it's also their secret signs, right? They have their secret language. So what strategies do we see here for how the minority deals with the majority and the dynamics that happen? We have playing the game. We have trying to expand the circle of who's allowed in and who gets access. We have the suggestion, well, actually, you think we're inferior, but actually we're superior. We have friendship. Maybe you can break through the structures, or maybe we're convincing ourselves that it does. And then you have just actually buying into the values of the majority, corrupting yourself and your own perspective in order to be one of them. The Gemara, of course, leaves it unresolved. There's a Talmud Yerushalmi passage that talks about Antoninus converting to Judaism, which is the ultimate subversion of power, who's actually in power. But I want us to think about, for a moment, what happens in the story when we're ready and we ask ourselves, when do we corrupt ourselves in the name of a seat at the table? When do we corrupt ourselves because the seat at the table feels like good status? We like it there? And when are we Antoninus? Asking ourselves when we're Antoninus, I think, is even the harder question. Are there times when we, by the way, we talk about us as a majority in America too. Talk about us as a minority, talk about us as a majority, Michal will talk about that later in the meeting. We as the majority cause other people to have to subvert and corrupt their own values in order to get along with us. I'll give an example. If you're talking to the only Palestinian who wants to talk to you, you're probably subverting somebody's narrative in there. If you've got the only Jew, the only person of color who wants to be on your board for a certain issue, well, there's probably something deeper going on there. And when do we actually look ourselves in the face, not at the parts that you agree with of what I just said, like people on the right are really just doing this for status, or people on the left are really just doing this for status, or we are subverting somebody else's narrative, but there's no way we're corrupting our own, right? When do we actually force ourselves in? Now, this is Torah of minorities. The reason I bring this to you is because as a bunch of rabbis, you can sit and read this with a dozen people and come to a dozen different conclusions, right? That's story number one. It has lots of strategies. It implies friendship, but also trap. Eliana, you have a question?
You haven't addressed it, maybe I'm seeing it right now, but you don't think there's something like sexual queer happening here?
Do I think there's something sexual or queer happening here?
I mean, to me, there's like, it's really hard.
You're reading this as somewhat of a romance between Rebbe and Antoninus.
No, I don't know if that's called romance.
But there's a kinship. There's a David and Jonathan.
And I'm thinking,
Right. Secret, underground. Here's what I'm gonna say. I think that that's an interesting line of inquiry, and I just don't know because I'm not familiar enough with how people do their analysis of the Talmud in that way. I'm just not familiar enough with that. I'm just gonna plead a little bit of ignorance, but an important hara, a very important point to bring in. Yes?
Good question. This reminds me of the end of Animal Farm. But my one question is,
Yeah.
in Animal Farm, you get the sense that the representatives of the press actually want to be traders. But do you get that in this story, or there was the rabbi who's actually traders?
Okay, so let's talk about this. Is Rebbe a traitor, or have we seen other people be traitors? Two things we need to know. This is in the Babylonian Talmud. It's not actually in the context of Rebbe. It is very easy for the Babylonian Talmud to talk about Rebbe and Rome, because it's probably a mashal for somebody in their own moment with Sasanian Persia, right? So that's first. Second, the reason I like this story is because it's unresolved. I don't think Rebbe's a bad guy, but he's also become a bad guy, right? That happens all the time. And anybody who thinks they're pure in politics is lying. And but it's not just that, it's the implication that perhaps he liked it. And Eliana, that goes to your point. The secretive, the intimacy, he liked that, right?
I think that
Yeah.
that's a sexual point. I don't know if Eliana was saying this, but I heard this. It's a darker part of the minority. When we talk about conspiracy, who's an enslaved person, now we have to look at it and basically say this is sexually assaulted.
Yeah. So it's interesting, the suggestion that maybe Rebbe in some ways is being assaulted in an intimate way. I want to go on because everybody has things to say, but I also have things to say. And then we have question time. Is that good? Is that okay? Because I want to hear what you say on that. And we have question, okay? The second case, Babylonian Talmud Sanhedrin 46. Let's talk about who this guy, Shavar Malka, is. King Shapur. King Shapur is a 3rd century Zoroastrian king who was very, very nice to the Jews. He treated them incredibly well. He tolerated religious minorities in remarkable ways. In fact, the dictum of Samuel of Shmuel, Dina de Malchuta Dina, the law of the land is the law, was actually coined under his empire, because there was an understanding that we have a relationship with these people, and they have a relationship with us, and their law matters to us. In fact, if you look at the end of Bava Metzia and the end of the Tractate of Gezerah, you will see King Shapur having conversations about halacha, where he jumps in and says, I think the law is like so-and-so. Now, on the one hand, he's participating. He wants to be involved. But on the other hand, there is something that happens when we're trying to have an internal conversation and somebody with a lot of power over us, even if they tolerate us, tries to weigh in on that conversation. And in a sense, that's what's happening in our Gemara. Shavur Malka, King Shapur, asks Chama, he says, how do you know from the Torah that you're supposed to bury people in the ground? This is not an innocent question. Does anybody know where Zoroastrians, the religion of Sasanian Babylonia, buried their people? They didn't. They let birds eat the carcasses because the carcass was impure. And so when he says to Chama, how do you know that you're supposed to bury? I'm not saying it's a dig, but it's a moment of deep misunderstanding. Oh, dang, I didn't get those. It's a moment, I really didn't. The only good puns are puns they don't mean. It's a moment where there's deep misunderstanding between the two. The Sasanian king is asking me, I don't get it. We think corpses are impure. We're not allowed to put them in the ground. They have to be eaten so that we get rid of them. How come your Torah, or how come you people have a different ethic than we do? We're not the same, we're different. And it's at the moment of difference where a question is asked about difference, where what unfortunately Chama says to himself is there's no way this guy's not understand. I would try to explain it to him, he's not going to understand. And so he stays quiet. And Rav Acha says, what's wrong with you? Tell him we have a pasuk in Devarim. Well, that pasuk in Devarim says the following. If somebody does a capital crime and gets killed for it, put them on a tree. Lo talin nivlato al ha'etz, but don't leave them out on the tree or wood. Ki kavor tiktareni, that's the word kavor in our Gemara. You must surely bury him hayomahu on that day. Ki kilat elohim taluah. Because what you're doing is basically you're allowing a curse of God to remain there. This is somebody who did something that God said don't do, and you're letting it to remain there so everybody tells the story and talks it through. And you should not, by letting him stay out, by letting the corpse stay out, you should not defile your land. So let me ask, what do you think happens? King Shapur says, hey, we don't bury our dead because we think that would defile the land because they're impure, so we leave them out to get eaten by birds. You know what you should have done? Chama, you should have read in the pasuk in the Torah, the psukim in the Torah that say, definitely don't leave them out to be eaten by birds, because that will defile the land. Instead, you should bury them in the ground. How is that? It's not just how is that going to go over. This is not just politics, it's about intelligibility. This is another big issue in the dynamic between majorities and minorities, which is, where are the points where the minority just says, I can try to explain this to you, you're still not going to understand it. And so I'm not going to bother. Now, the calm version of this is like a quietistic, stay to yourself kind of group. Don't try to teach people what Jews out there. Don't go on Oprah and start talking about family purity law. Don't do that. Why do people do that? That's like, you do this weird thing, you don't eat lobster. What is, okay, it's for a different class. It's for a different class. Don't do that. But here's the more severe version, which is what we call anti-normalization. I'm not going to talk to you because I'm not going to normalize your view of who I am. Because you don't actually care who I am. You don't actually want to hear it. You don't actually want to know it. This is a different strategy. And it happens in benign, quote-unquote, ways all the time with minorities and majorities. By the way, it probably happens on this program among you. There's probably some people here who do something that they think nobody else would understand, and they would try to explain it. Or a question that gets asked that you don't want to talk about, you don't want to say. But this is actually a totally normal feature of being in a minority. That there are times when, because the grand story actually conflicts with your story, the values are not actually the same. The way that Chazoni mentioned, sometimes the values are not the same. In those moments, do you choose to try to translate your values? Are you going to lose something in translation? Does he not want to open up to even say it, because even in translating it, he may have to betray the way he thinks about it? Or is he really making a mistake? Should he really say, on this we have different values? Yes.
And it could be dangerous.
And it could be dangerous to try, right? Best case scenario, Shapur says, well, this is only a custom. And then you're going to go back and say, no, it's not, it's actually real, right? What's going to get lost here? I could get into trouble, either with Shapur, or I actually could betray and try to translate what it is that I think into terms that he'll understand, thus actually betraying what it is that I think. And I don't mean betray like showing and revealing. I mean betray like ruining, like undoing, like corrupting. Yes?
Of course, I'm saying you can't bear it because you're going to defile.
So there are some people who say that what this actually is, academics, this actually is like a debate, like we had in the Middle Ages. A debate in front of the king about whose religion is better. And this is not so innocent. Other people suggest that he's honestly trying to understand. I engage in religious talk with rabbis. I want to know why it is that you think it doesn't defile the land to bury, and I think it does. Can we talk about it? Right? So it's hard to know what he's coming in with.
But I have a different question.
Yeah.
He believes it defiles the land. Is he saying you can't do it anymore?
Maybe that's implicit, but we know historically that's not something that he would do. But it doesn't mean that what you want to do is show the difference and highlight the difference. You probably want to highlight the sameness in order to get along as a minority. You want to actually highlight the sameness. I want to do our last text because we'll have time for questions and comments. This was very different from Rabbi Yehuda, the prince, and Antoninus. Chama either gives up access or recognizes access for what it is, perhaps a trap. But we don't quite know. The third is a different type of dynamic. In our dynamic between the daughter of Caesar and Rabbi Joshua ben Hananiah, you actually have a very clear assault on the minority's beliefs. Very clear. Amarle bat Kesar, number 6, Rabbi Yeshua ben Hananiah, but the daughter of Caesar says to Rabbi Yeshua ben Hananiah, Elohechon nagarhu. And here your God is a carpenter. Does that sound familiar? There's also prophecy going on here. Dichtiv, as it's written on the Rebbe Maim al Yotav, that your God sends the beams of water in the heavens. Ask your God. I want to domesticate your God. I want to bring your God down from the heavens. I want to humiliate your God. I want your God to make me a spool. I want your God to go from making the heavens into making me a nice little spindle that I can put my threading. Amar L'chai, sure. Vayracham Elei Allah. He prayed for her, right? I love that. He prayed for her, like Moshe prays for Pharaoh, right? V'inga, and she gets tzarat. Otva b'shukah deroma. We put her in the shuk. My kids would be like, "Ooh, there's a shuk in Rome. We should go to that too." Did they have any They put her in the shuk in Rome. V'yavel on the street, and they gave her a spindle. The Habli, the Chol Romi, because anybody who used to get tzarat in Rome, the Habli Sarita, they would give them a spindle, the Yalta B'Shukah, and set them down in the shuk. The Satar Dole, and basically they would go all day long taking the skins off, putting the skins on, so that people would pray for them. That's Thomas. Anybody have any medical backgrounds here? What do you think of the idea of putting someone with an incredibly communicable disease in the middle of the market? What do you think it means to have Caesar's daughter sitting as a leper in the center of Rome? What it means is, Rome, you are lepers. That's what it means. Now, what's remarkable about that is that actually the Romans thought the Jews were lepers, or descended from lepers. So let's think about that for a minute. What happens when Julian says, Jews, you don't have any doctors, and we say, no, you don't have any doctors? What does that sound like? Or I'll put it in terms that people can understand better. We say, you're violent, and you say, no, you're violent. I'll put it in terms you can understand better. You're a puppet. No, you're a puppet. What is that dynamic about? Where the powerful says to the less empowered, I think a certain way about you. And the less empowered says, oh yeah? Well, I think that way about you too. Seems like the more empowered has gotten in the head of the less empowered quite a bit. Which is, you think that I'm that? You're that. Why not just say I'm not that? Why not just say I'm not that? There's another conversation between the daughter of Caesar and Rabbi Shimon Hanania in the Babylonian Talmud, the only other conversation. In Ta'anit, page 7, I don't remember 77, where she says to him, there are two conversations. She says to him, what a beautiful wisdom, such an ugly vessel. Right? What is she saying? It's by the way, it's King Shapur. It's like, I don't understand. Aesthetics and wisdom go together. It doesn't make sense. You should be more comely than that. Right? So, if Rabbi Shimon Hanania were going to do what he does here, he should say, no, you're an ugly vessel. Right? That's what he should do. That's not at all what he does. What he actually does is he says to her, I tell your dad to put his wine in golden and silver vessels, and let's see what happens. Instead of putting them in ugly clay vessels. And they do, and the wine spoils. And then, he gets called into the emperor. And the emperor says, why did you tell her to do that? Said, I answered exactly as she said. She wanted to understand how beauty can be in an ugly vessel. You also think beauty can be in an ugly vessel. You put expensive wine in an ugly clay pot. That's the only way. If you put it in a golden vessel or silver, it's going to get ruined. And the metaphor there for the rabbis is those who are humble, they can learn Torah, and those who are not, it's not going to go so well. Right? But the point is, in that conversation, he does not accept her terms. He does not accept the way she looks at him. He says, no, I want to explain to you, we have different values. We think when you put the body in the ground, that does purify the ground. We think aesthetics and wisdom do not go together. That we have a different understanding. We don't think it's all about power. We think ideology is very important, right? And instead of doing that, he perpetrates violence against her through religious means. And I have no idea what the Babylonian Talmud thinks of whether he did something good or something bad. But I do know that there's somewhat of an obsession with how they think about us. Because there's more. Do you know who else wants to make somebody who has a tzara'at really public in order for people to pray for them? We do. Because in the Torah, from our Chulin 78a, Tamei Tamei Yikra, in Vayikra 13, about tzara'at. You're going to call out that that person is Tamei. Tzarich lo tin rabin. You have to tell the multitudes, you have to tell the public that someone is tzara'at. Your rabbin mevakshim alav rachamim, so that people will pray for them. The Romans, they do like what we do. Only they do it stupider. Because they put it in the marketplace and we know to put them outside. But look, there's an obsession. We want to one up them and their own and that. It's such a corruption. Because then one day, the Rishu ben Hananiah comes to the Caesar's daughter. And he says, hey, what do you think of the school that my God gave you? She says, get rid of it, take it back. And he says, oh, we're so sorry. We're so sorry. What happens here is threefold. Number one, what Rabbi Shimon Hananiah says is, if power is the currency, we brute force, we have more of it than you. Instead of saying, you think power is the currency, you're wrong. Right? Two, he defends God by making God into a Roman. He defends God by not making God into an emperor who would cut people down. And that's the God that he wants to show to Caesar's daughter. But three, your God is a carpenter. Our God's not a carpenter. Our God gives tzara'at, doesn't heal it. Our God gives and doesn't take away. It's an anti-Christian one. Caesar's daughter is being used here. She's being used here, like Julian, right? Like Julian would use. So what other things are going on that make us do violence? But honestly, this third one, right? If the first one reminds me of people who are trying to ingratiate themselves, the first story, Rebbe and Dominus, or people who are forcing people to ingratiate themselves. And the second story is a story of unintelligibility between the two groups. And I think this story is actually, people may be upset by this, but I'm okay with that. The third story is actually a story of the lengths to which a minority will go to. The lengths to which a minority will go. The violence that a minority will do in the name of getting itself heard. And I am not justifying that in any way. I am simply describing. So when I heard a speech of one of the graduates of New York University, a graduate student, who said we need to unite in radical love in boycotting Israel, that scared the living daylights out of me. Because when you describe the giving of tzara'at to a person as praying to God, or when you describe isolating a group in a region as radical love, what I know is that there's not actually something unnatural going on. There's something very natural going on there. And it's very easy, as the powerful one in that situation, to say, you shouldn't do that. But if we were Rabbi Yeshua ben Hananiah, we'd probably do it too. So where does this leave us? Hopefully a little uncomfortable. In this conversation, and in reality, Sometimes we are empire, or people look at us as empire, even if we're not, or even if we're not only that. And it's important to learn from our own experiences and our own stories as minorities to observe and think about what we might be doing to other minorities. But we are also, in some places, a minority. Whether it's in places like the world stage at the UN, or as Mati Friedman likes to talk about, Israel in its region, or when experiencing anti-Semitism, or, by the way, when we align ourselves with the marginalized. We put ourselves in that minority position. And I would also say that there's no such thing as the Jews are a minority or the Jews are a majority. We, in so many places where we live, we are both. And we fight with each other over who is more of either. And so sometimes it's actually Jew versus Jew in these conversations. And it's not a story of Jews as a minority or Jews as a majority. It's actually a story of the way that we negotiate things ourselves. What I'm hoping comes out of this is the idea that there's more to Torah than V'ahavta et hagir, love the stranger, when it comes to minority Torah. And what I mean by that is not facile. What I mean by that is I think all three of these examples are actually implying, if not explicitly talking about the realpolitik that surrounds the minority-majority relationship in ways that are really fruitful for discussion. The second, obviously minority Torah is insufficient. Proximity is much more important than minority Torah. So if we actually want to think about these things, to whom do we get proximate in order to find out what their stories are that they're telling now? The honesty here, in a week that we're talking about the importance of Jewish nationalism, and make no mistake, there's plenty of America coming up here, but we're talking about the importance of Jewish nationalism. We actually have to deeply admit that we are not immune from the totally organic forces of there being a grand narrative, a master narrative, and there being other narratives that are ignored or sublimated or opposed or condemned or whatever it is, nor are we immune from the inorganic pieces of where we go to somebody and say, I hear your God is a carpenter. I'd like to see them make me a school. But I also don't think, and this is, I think, the hardest part about this conversation, which is, what's the lens to which you come, with which you come to this? So when it comes to Jewish nationalism, my reason for being pro-Jewish nationalism is a very political Zionist reason. I'm religious. I'm not a religious Zionist per se, in the sense that I think we're in a Messianic era. I love Jewish culture, and I think Jewish culture, Achad Ha'am style, really is so vibrant here and it's beautiful. But that's not actually the reason I'm a Zionist. The reason I'm a Zionist is because the same reason that Herzl is a Zionist. Because as you'll hear from Yehuda, who is the opposite of this, I am pessimistic about the possibility of history not repeating itself. And I don't mean history from 1939. I mean 2,000 years of history. I am pessimistic about that. And because of that, I'm willing to live with certain injustices. I am willing to live with dirty hands. Just because I'm able to do that or want to do that doesn't mean everybody is able to do that or wants to do that. But B, then my next move is not to say, and therefore I am reconciled. My next move is then to think about, what do you do when your hands are dirty? And so I want to end with Michael Walzer, and I want to end with Emmanuel Levinas. Michael Walzer's idea of what you do when your hands are dirty in his article, Dirty Hands. Do you basically say this is the way it is? Do you not engage in it? Do you try to do some sort of penance for it? I want to think about that as a starting point. Because to be honest, I'm pretty sure that minority communities would say, great that you're doing penance on the side, but the structure's still a problem. So I'm not coming here resolved. I'm coming here to know that I am committed to Jewish nationalism and knowing that there are very organic and inorganic processes that result from my doing Jewish nationalism. And that's where the conversation for me begins. You just got to it, right? Of now what and now where. And then my last, if anybody's heard the conversation, the interview that Emmanuel Levinas, 20th century French Jewish philosopher, had with, I want to say, Elaine Finkelkraut, I think, after the Sabra Shaquille massacre. So Finkelkraut said to him, how could you possibly be a Zionist because you are the philosopher of the other, and I only know that I'm alive, not like the Germans said, because I can think, German philosophers, but also turns out Nazis. But also, it's a little aside, but also because I see the face of the other, that's how I know, right? So he says, first of all, Jews, other Jews are other Jews, and they count. Then he says something that I think is so brutally honest and so important. He says, there's ethics and there's politics. Ethics are about caring for everyone universally. Politics are about caring for your own. The state of Israel is an ethically necessary state because Jewish blood was able to run free with immunity, with amnesty, for too long, and all of humanity should care about that. But once you create a political state, there are going to be places where politics and ethics collide, such as in the Sabra and Shaquille massacres, and in other smaller ways, probably all the time. And what he says is, as a philosopher, I can't give you a list. I can't give you a guidepost. What you need to do is every single time something happens, you need to stop and move on. And for a philosopher to say that, and to be honest in that kind of way, I think is very, very sobering. So what we're looking at here, apparently Michael Walzer, Neil Zuckerman, who was at CLP, told me this. Michael Walzer once said, just because we have the problem of dawn and dusk doesn't mean that there is no day and night. What I tried to do here is step a little bit into the dawn and the dusk, where things are not so clear and reasonable people can disagree. But let's just not pretend that it's day or night. Thank you.